Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I don't know whether there's anybody who's it's morning where they are. Thank you for joining us. I hope everyone is good. Can you hear me? Very good. Thanks, Ibrahim. Thanks, Victor. All right. Very good, very good. So thank you for joining us for this webinar today. The topic, as you can see, we are going to be discussing things to do with mindset around money, what we think about money, what we feel about money, what are the things that we have perhaps traditionally been thinking about from when we were kids, or thoughts that we have imbibed from our youth. All right, so I believe everyone can see my screen, and the Menti link I've shared there. So on your phone, assuming you're not joining on your phone, or even if you're on the phone, just quickly go to your browser and type in menti.com. You can see this that is here, the URL that is here, menti.com, and then put in the code that you can see there on the side. Put in the code that you can see there on the side, and just go in and tell us what you're hoping to get from this meeting. Are you guys able to log in? Are people able to get to the Menti screen? Mary, are you able to get to the Menti screen?
Yes, I've managed.
Okay. So you can start us off and tell us what you're hoping to get from this session. I would like to ask a simple question. Maybe you can put your hand up. How many of us made money this month? You can put up our hands. If your camera is on, well and good, but if not, you can also raise your virtual hand here on the call. So I believe some of us, maybe even most of us, made money this month. But if I was to ask you exactly where it went, are you able to say where every coin of all the money that you made, where it went? Yeah. And I don't know whether some people around the table feel like no matter how hard we work, the money that you're making, the money that I'm making is just not stretching far enough. I don't know how many people are feeling like that. I know I feel like that quite a bit. Yeah. And truly, I think most of us are tired of feeling like we're starting over every month, where you feel like this month has come and gone, and so I have a new salary I'm expecting at the tail end of this month, but I feel like I have to constantly keep going back to the drawing board and figuring out what I need to drop, what I need to, So I just wanted to let you guys know that you're not alone. I think a good number of us feel like that. I personally feel like that. I have been there perhaps more times than I'd care to admit. Okay, and I want us to go to the next phase of this, where I want us to go to the next question. Are you able to name 3 qualities or 3 words that would describe the type of person that you aspire to be, maybe in the next 1 to 3 years? What are you hoping for? What are you working towards actively? Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to just bring out here is that in my own personal journey, let me just take you back a bit. When I just finished campus and I started to work, one day I woke up and I realized I was living with my parents. So essentially I was not paying rent and I had no major bills, if I can put it that way. So it was my first job, so I wasn't being paid a lot. I think I was being paid 24,000. But I realized that I was in a debt cycle. So I had a friend who used to work in a bank. I was working in a financial services firm. So what would happen is this lady would get paid very early in the month. She would be paid, I think, about the 17th to 19th, and myself would be paid much later. So what would habitually happen is that when she'd be paid, I'd be broke, so I'd borrow her, and then when I would be paid, generally between 1st and the 5th, what would happen is that now she would be broke, so it would be a cycle. Then one day, as we were having, I believe it was a birthday celebration, we were both born in the same month, we were having a conversation with each other, and we said, wow, wait, we are here habitually in debt, and yet regardless of when you're paid, you more or less have a 30-day pay cycle. And that is where the whole idea of Centi came up, because what ended up happening is, with discipline and with close tracking, so to speak, of the money that was coming in and that was going out, and analyzing what happened this month, then I was able to get out of debt, and essentially within like a 6-month window to be able to go from being in debt every month, maybe up to 5k, to finding that I was able to lend out up to 10k per month. Yeah. So let's go to the next question. If you're to look at the questions on the screen, what is your money personality? Which one do you think, which category do you fall under? Are you the YOLO spender? Atukufi tuachia watu hii pesa yote, we're going to eat it here and now because who knows about tomorrow? Are you the person who keeps telling yourself, I'm going to start next month, and then the end of the month comes and you say, okay, this month something extra happened, so I'm not able to? Yeah. Are you the budgeter who still overspends? So you sit down, you do a budget, and after you finished your budget, then you still find yourself, fortunately or unfortunately overspending, right? Are you the avoider, where things are so thick that you don't want to look? Or are you the soft life financial strategist? Which one are you? And I'd like you to just keep track of the answers that you have put in for yourself, especially on this money personality, right? Okay. So we're going to be discussing today how to take control of our money, so that we can achieve our financial goals faster, right? So I'll ask you to do something real quick. I'll go back to my presentation here, but maybe on your phone or on a piece of paper, if you have something nearby, just do something for me. I'd like you to just write down, we have 2 minutes, I'll ask you to just write down everything that you spent money on in the last 24 hours, even the small things, like maybe you had a rider deliver something to you, or you caught and do from point A to B. Just write that down. I'll give you about 2 minutes, give or take. Just quietly look at your list, and the question to you is, the items that you can see on that list, were those the things you had intended to do with the money? Were all those things foreseen? Were there some items that made it to that list that have surprised you a little, or maybe even not so little, maybe a lot? Yeah. And yeah, even on mine, I did this exercise a bit earlier this evening, and I realized I had some surprise things. Yeah, I mean, some of them were things that I knew were coming, so I don't know whether anyone would like to talk us through some of the surprise things on their list. Essentially what we're trying to say is, we have things that end up sneaking up on us, and if we are not keeping an eye on them, if we're not tracking them, then that is what can end up happening. We can end up at a place where we are not the ones in control, like things just come and quietly take control of our financial life. Yeah, and of course that's not what we want. Yeah, so maybe the first thing that I want us to agree is that one of the things that I think is very easy to happen is that we can very easily tell ourselves, we can find ourselves speaking on repeat to ourselves and saying, I am bad with money, I am bad with money. But you're not bad with money. A good chunk of us were actually never taught anything to do with money. Yeah, it was all around us. We were always discussing it. You'd be given money maybe to go to the shop, to the supermarket, to pay for this, that, or the other, but we didn't actually talk about it. There was no financial literacy taught. And one of the things that I like to say all the time is, my parents were wonderful people, not perfect but wonderful. But the only thing that I am actually consciously or cognizant of the fact that we were not taught in my home is financial literacy. So we talked about everything else, good manners, good friends, bad friends, and if we don't manage it, it's a bit like time. If you don't manage what you do with your time, then what can end up happening is that if you're just open, if someone comes and says, oh, do this for me or do that for me, if you don't put in boundaries that say, I'm going to be, reading emails between 9 and 9:30, and then from 9:30 to 11 I'm going to be working, you can constantly find yourself being hit by roadside declarations. And the same happens with our money. Yeah, so what we want to do is to put in a system that helps us control where our money flows. Victor has said that one of the items that he had not planned for on his list were the fast foods and snacks. Okay, we need to agree is that money is not the problem. Our systems or lack of them is what is the problem, right? And I'd like us here to pause for a bit and just look back and figure out what are the thoughts that we have in our minds about money. Yeah, what are the behaviors that we learned from our childhood about money, right? There's a video I had wanted to show you guys.
Ideally, parents let their children learn how to help themselves. Parents who neglect their children or those who are overly involved achieve the opposite. Their children often learn helplessness and hence believe that they can neither control their life nor change their environment. Learned helplessness was first discovered by two researchers who conditioned dogs to endure electric shocks. Martin Seligman and Stephen F. Meyer conducted their experiment with 3 groups of dogs. Dogs from the first group were caged and made to wait for a period of time before being released. These dogs were what's known as the control group. The second group were also caged and got electric shocks from below. When they pressed a button, the shocks stopped. They learned that they could stop the pain. The third group of dogs were exposed to the shocks but had no way of stopping them. After the conditioning, all 3 groups were put into a box that gave shocks on one side but not the other. The first and second group of dogs quickly learned to avoid being shocked by jumping over the wall that separated the 2 sides of the box. The third group of dogs made no attempt to avoid the shocks. They had developed a cognitive expectation that they could not avoid the pain. Seligman and Meyer attributed this to learned helplessness. Children can also be affected, as this oversimplified story attests. This is the story of Joe. While other kids were allowed to run, this cute little boy was put in a walker so he couldn't hurt himself. And so, from early on, Joe learned that the world is a dangerous place. On the rare occasions that his father was home, he told Joe to toughen up and become a strong boy. But without a role model, Joe lacked the motivation to live up to his dad's expectations. He began to feel inferior. Over time, this feeling got stronger. Whenever there was a problem, his mother would jump in to help. Joe began to internalize the belief that he couldn't help himself when confronted with challenges. Whenever he had to make a major decision, he'd ask his mum for advice. Deep inside, he resented her for not allowing him to become more independent. What are your thoughts? How can we help those that fail to see the path out of their toxic life? How can we help them to help themselves? Share your thoughts and your own experience.
All right. So we can come back to this other side, but the question now here is from where you sit. Maybe go inwards. The question that I have for you guys is, when you look at yourself and the thoughts bouncing around your head about money, I don't know what thoughts you have in your head about money. If you want, you can put some of them in the chat. But do you have thoughts around thoughts about how hard it is, for example, to make money? Is there anybody who has found themselves thinking that it is very hard to make money, you know? Or you find yourself thinking that you're bad with money because 1, 2, 3 reasons. If you want, you can put some of those comments in the chat. But one of the things that I know I found myself at some point thinking and feeling was precisely that I had found myself in debt, and I would live in fear, always thinking that even if I got out of debt, I would find myself back in. And that led me to sometimes hold back, to not take risks, even when the risks were reasonable, you know. But the good thing is, regardless of where we come from, regardless of the childhood that we had, whether it is from our own parents, from things that we observed, there are things that we inherited, but that we can go ahead and get rid of, or rather change our mindset. So I don't know whether you can see. No, you can't see it. Let me share this one. I have my mentee tab up again. I'll ask you to go back to your phones and maybe just put for me your thoughts around rich people. Whatever thought has popped into your head when you saw the thing they're saying, rich people are. Just go back and tell us what you feel about rich people, whether you're one yourself or not. You can just put it in. Okay. And maybe even as we're going into this exercise, I'll ask you to just put in the answer that pops into your head the first time, right? So we can go. So I'll go to the next slide. So these are just open-ended questions. We're trying to figure out what are the thoughts bouncing around our heads about money. So I'll take us to the next slide, if you don't mind. Go to the last one. I think it's the last one. Let's see. Alright, maybe we can come back to this a bit later. We can put a pin in it there. So how do we get rid of childhood beliefs? How do we make sure that we get over this blockers, things that we have brought in from our childhood? So maybe one of the things that I'd like to ask you is, think back to your first money memory. I'd like you to share some of those money memories. I don't know what it is. I don't know how old you are. Maybe it was your first money memory might be something to do with, I don't know, maybe you're walking on the street and you found some money, or you saw an older sibling being beaten because they had lost money, they had stolen money they had, or maybe it's just simple that you were sent to the shop, to the kiosk, to buy a packet of milk or bread. I'd like volunteers here. So what is your first money memory?
Okay, I can speak.
Go ahead, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, my first money memory was back in the years when I found 200 bob in the Kibaki Elas.
On the streets?
Nice. It was somewhere on a trench.
Nice. Okay.
I bought some wheat flour, 2 kg, and some other things. I missed chapati, so I felt good. So
nice.
They couldn't. Okay, I couldn't take the money to my mother, so that I was the one to buy what I want.
I like it.
How? I had to cook.
Sorry, you had to fulfill.
Yeah, I had missed chapati at that time.
How old were you?
I think I was around 7.
Nice.
7, yeah.
Okay.
Not 7. Actually, I was in class 1, 6 years.
6 years. And what when you think of that memory, what thoughts does it trigger, or feelings? How does it leave you feeling?
It was very exciting at that moment.
Probably you felt lucky, right?
Yeah, I felt lucky.
Thanks for sharing. Okay. And I don't know if anybody would like to talk about any triggers they have realized, things that trigger them now. So, for example, let me give my own example. One time, I don't even remember what was happening, but I know I was feeling very broke. Then we used to steal from each other, my brother and I, clothes, right? So he had stolen some very nice, not khaki, sweatings that someone had bought for me. And so it was my time to repay him, so I robbed him of a nice jacket, I think one my mom had bought for him or something. And so this one day he comes home, and he was living in campus. So he comes home and he more or less demands for his jacket. And I remember we ended up having a really big row. And looking back now after the incident, maybe a couple of days later, I realized I didn't even have a problem with him. It wasn't even a problem how he asked for his jacket back. Is that he found me at a moment where I was feeling very broke, poor actually is the word. And when he asked for his jacket back, it more or less rubbed me the wrong way, because it perhaps reminded me that I was feeling poor, that I was not capable, or whatever it is that I was feeling. So I don't know whether anybody would like to share any triggers that they may have experienced or anything like that. Yeah, or ways in which you find yourself like, let me give a different example. I have a friend who, I remember one time we were having a conversation, and she more or less says something like, it was end month, she had just been paid and she was broke. So she turned and she says, Charlie, I was so pissed. I went and bought myself a nice suit. I thought, wait, that's what you did when you were broke? And it's that for her, when she was feeling broke, clothes would represent good feelings, would make her feel nice, even though they would put her even more in the red after that. So I don't know whether on your end you have any such triggers that you have identified, or things that make you think that if I do this, then I'll end up feeling better or whatever. Would anybody like to share one of those stories? Does anybody have a story like that they'd like to share? I'm hoping that you've written down some of those things, some of the thoughts that you have found bouncing around in your mind about yourself and money and your capacity to make it or your capacity to keep it, to retain it. But I'd like you to just remind yourself that struggle is not your portion, that you're worthy of making, keeping and growing your money. But for that to happen, we have to be intentional, and we have to reflect on our mindset and to constantly monitor how we even speak to ourselves about money. Because they say all money is energy and energy is money. So if, for example, you have a job and you're constantly complaining about this job, whether it's because the money is little or your boss is mean or the hours are long, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get out of the pressure cooker you have right now of money, whether it's that it's little or whatever it is, because you need to have a positive mindset even around your current source of income, even if it is little. And even if you have no source of income, it is generally encouraged, advised that you should have a gratitude exercise every day. And the specialists of this exercise actually say it is better if you don't just think it, don't even just write it on your phone. I mean, you could write it on your phone, but they say it is better if you have a physical book that you can write, where you put pen to paper, because then it does something to the mind-matter connection, where if you put pen to paper, then somehow I guess it feels like it is more real, right? But coming back to the thoughts that you have identified, the things that you think about money and the things that you're constantly telling yourself about money, the one question that I'd like to ask you is, if you were talking, or rather if your friend was talking to you about their money situation, would you talk to them about their money the way you talk to yourself about money? So if someone came to you and they said, oh, I'm not good at making money, the same conversation that you would have with someone, how you talk to your friend or how your friend would talk to you, that is how we have to learn how to talk to ourselves. And we really need to learn how to monitor how we talk to ourselves and to listen to our own conversations, because half the time the way we talk to ourselves, if anybody talked to us like that, would probably unfriend them, right? So just look at your list of thoughts that you have, and the questions that I'd like to ask yourself is, are these statements true? So just look at it and objectively think about it. Can I absolutely know that this statement is true when I say that I am good or bad with money? Because sometimes they're extenuating circumstances, right? Sometimes we have a thought and it is a fear about the future that holds us back right now. It's not even something that has actually happened, right? And the other question is to ask myself, how do I react when I believe this thought? So for example, if I think that I'll never make enough money, for example, to get out of debt, what does that lead to? Because sometimes you might find when we have such thoughts, then maybe what ends up happening is, if you're interviewing for a job and you think they can't possibly pay me that much, then sometimes what ends up happening is you might end up not negotiating. I remember one time 2 people came to work in a place where I was working. Both of them were from the same computer science class, and both of them landed more or less similar jobs, entry level. And what was amazing is that one person got in at a pay point of 35,000 and the other one at 60,000. And the only difference is that one dared to negotiate, right? So even for yourself, it doesn't matter whether it is in the supermarket, marketplace, when you're buying veggies, or when you're buying, chairs, furniture for your house. Do we negotiate? When you're in the workplace, do you take the first offer they give you? Because sometimes it's not even about the money. You might find that maybe they have a fixed price point where the money is concerned, but maybe their offer is of 21 leave days and you're able to get 24 leave days if they're not able to match where you wanted to go with the money, And the last question is, where would I be without this thought? Where would I be without this thought? If I was to get rid of this thought, of this fear, where would that leave me? All right. Welcome, Carol. Okay. So I'll pause there and allow anyone who has any thoughts or questions they would like to ask. Are there any questions in the room? So let me switch my screen a bit here again. I will go back to the mentee link. So just for the people who are just joining us, if you can see this QR code here on the side, it has a URL there that says menti.com. Just open it and then put in the code that you can see there when the screen comes up asking for a code. And then the question now for you is, if money stress disappeared tomorrow, what would change first for you? If you didn't have money stress, what would change first? What would change first? And for us to realize that when we are talking about money and money stressing us, it's not a simple question of money stressing me or it's not. It is more a question of it has a direct impact in our life, right? You can see their energy levels for sure. If you have money stress, even how you show up, whether it is at work, sometimes maybe you don't show up at work, or when you show up a bit late, or even when you show up, you're not able to deliver to the best of your. I don't know the person who put in location what they meant. I don't know whether that means they would move to a better location, I assume, and for sure a better parent, easier relationships, state of mind would be stress-free. And I remember again a different friend who one time had so much stress because of a particular debt that she had, and she called me at 5 a.m. in the morning, and after getting shocked that someone crying because of stress, and after getting shocked over the fact that someone could call me at 5 a.m., what I realized later is that actually she had probably been sitting on her hands for the last 2 to 3 hours waiting for an hour that it wasn't too ridiculous. All right, so we come back to our presentation, and essentially what we're saying is any money that is not tracked is leaking money. I am sure we have all had those months where you look back at the month and you wonder, where did I lose this 500 or 5,000? You've done all your math, you've tried to do your reconciliation, including your M-Pesa transactions, and we have ways in which money leaks away from us. Number one is from the small daily expenses. You get to work and you realize you woke up late, you didn't have a chance to eat breakfast, you buy a boiled egg. Impulse spending, emotional purchases that quietly drain your goal, like that one that I was telling you for the lady who would buy a suit when she was feeling broke. But most importantly is where we are not tracking, where we have no clarity. That is the thing that always gets us, because if you're not tracking, so you wake up having, say, 50,000 on the first of the month, but you continually buy this, buy that. If you're paying rent, you pay rent. If there's bus fare or fuel money, you have fueled. But if you're not tracking, then it's very easy to find yourself at the tail end of the month without having finished the month where the money is gone. So, and for us to just be very clear, it's not just the money that you're losing, it's the time. Because when you have money that you're not able to account for, then what ends up having is you have delayed dreams. Whether you're talking about building or buying a home, going on holiday every year, or maybe several times every year, let's dream, amen, okay? Or whichever other milestones. Maybe you wanted to go back to school and you just find yourself without enough money to put towards a particular goal, and you find you have constant stress, that financial anxiety that affects your health, your relationships, and perhaps even your sleep. You find yourself living without a buffer, which means I had a statistic, though this was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a statistic in Stato, so I think here it is for sure even worse. But this lady was saying that in America, most families are not able to endure an emergency shock of $400. So even if we were to say at an exchange rate of 100 shillings, that essentially means 40 to 50,000. And you see, it's very easy to incur such a cost, say from a medical something, or something happens in your home or to your car if you have a car, and you find yourself, you thought you were okay financially, then you find because of this one emergency surprise that has come your way, you have a couple of bad months trying to recover. And more importantly, if your money has leaks, then you end up never feeling ahead. Okay. So even if you were to earn more money without a system, it simply would be the same stress, just bigger amounts that we are looking at. I remember meeting a lady a couple of years back who said she's a money coach. Now she's okay. But at that point in time, she used to say she had been earning a gross income of 1 million shillings every month, and she was constantly in debt. So we have to be very intentional about tracking our money, about where we are putting it. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted us to do today is essentially to have a demo of this application, this Centi application I'm logging into. So I have an existing account there, but I want to use a different account. So let's say sign up. Okay. So this is the normal process that we would go through. Okay. So essentially what should happen is that when you log in, this is what you should see. So first tells you welcome to your dashboard. Let's take a quick tour, alright, to understand your financial dashboard. So let's say next. So the first thing that we'll end up doing on the app is to go through a quiz, alright. So it says the quiz determines your financial zone by assessing your financial habits. Take it to unlock personalized insights. So we say next. Then we'll go, the background is not very visible. I don't know why it's so dark. It shouldn't be so dark, right? Because we should be highlighting the different parts. But essentially it's that after you finish the quiz, then you go and set up your money goals, and then you set up your inflows, your outflows, essentially your budget categories. And then if you have any debts, this is the point where you'd catch them, and then you'll get a summary or a dashboard of your wallet tracker, and you'll be able to follow through. All right. Okay, so let me pause it there. I wanted to show you something here first before we continue. So when you're setting these goals, it is better, it is easier to achieve the goals that we have. Sorry, I'm not looking at the same thing I'm looking at. It is easier to achieve the goals that you have when you have very concrete goals, because I say vague goals create vague results. So the first thing you always want to do when you're setting up your money goals is to set very clear targets. Define exactly what you want and why it matters to you. And I'd say perhaps, in my opinion, the why matters a lot more than even the what. So if, for example, you have just gotten out of debt and now you're looking to set up an emergency fund, you need to go deep and figure out, why is this thing important for me? Why do I feel like I need to have this emergency fund? For you to really internalize and to own the process, because sometimes as you're working towards this goal, of course there'll be competing interests. You'll wake up and you'll find it's a particular time of the month, and perhaps you have a craving for something, or people in the office are doing this, that, or the other, and you feel like you need to contribute to be part of the fun. So you need to have that conversation or your why very clearly in mind, so that if you realize that if I go for this party, then it means that I won't be able to save for my vacation. Then up there you just make the decision for yourself. What is higher priority? Is it the party? Is it the holiday that I wanted to go, whether by myself or with my family? All right. So it says set clear targets, have real established timelines, and break it down and say I'll be contributing weekly, monthly, whatever it is, and then to track it consistently. I read a fun fact the other day. There's a book called by a guy called Brian Tracy. He says No Excuses. It's called No Excuses, the book. And essentially what he says is people who track their goals 11x their chances of achieving the said goals. And I don't know whether some of you make New Year resolutions. Personally, I do. I know some people don't. And I realized in the years when I have actually tracked my goals, and sometimes not even too closely, like if I just set myself reminders to check every quarter, I realized I would end up achieving at least 65% of the said goals if I just remembered to check in, right? Okay, so we come back to the app. Stop me if you have any questions at any point in time. So the first part is, welcome to your financial journey. It looks like you've not taken the financial quiz. Take it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we say proceed to quiz. And here what we're trying to just ascertain is, where are you financially? So that like that, then we can later on be able to craft a plan that actually works for you based on where you are, right? So it says, let's find out your current financial zone. So when I think of my money situation, bills, debts versus income, what is my situation here? So because this is not like a real whatever, I'll ask you guys to help me choose. What do you want us to choose? Do we say I get excited and I have peace of mind, or do I feel fearful, angry, I want to disappear? Someone choose for me. Hi.
I get unsettled. I feel pressured by bills.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the next one. And here, you see, you can't really know where you're going until you know your current reality. All right. So I have control over my day-to-day, month-to-month finances. Yes, I live fully my desired lifestyle and give back my money and time generously. Or sometimes, or no, I can pay bills and debts.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Okay. So I have the capacity to absorb unexpected emergencies or life events, e.g. job losses, illnesses. So yes, I am all covered. I do, but I need reassurance. No, I don't. My income is insufficient or not at all. I don't have capacity to absorb emergencies and life events. Which one do we pick?
Option 2.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. I am on track with my short-term and long-term financial goals. Yes, I've achieved them. I am, but I need reassurance. I need additional income. No, I don't. My income is below my commitments, or not at all. Pick a choice with me.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Next. I track my income and spending. I am clear on where my money goes. Which one should we pick?
Sometimes, but not often.
Okay. How do you typically pay for major expenses, e.g. buying a car, housing, school fees? I pay cash, debit card or mobile money. I pay with savings. I get a loan that I'm able to repay monthly. I get a loan but I'm not able to keep up with the repayments. I hardly get to afford this. What should we pick?
A loan I'm able to pay monthly.
Okay. Good. Alright, have you ever faced threats, auctioneers, received demand letters, CRB listings due to outstanding debt? Yes or no?
Not ever.
Okay.
Alright.
Same. What percentage of your monthly income do you save and invest? What should we pick?
Maybe 1 to
1 to 20. Okay. Alright, how frequently do you have to dip into your savings to cover expenses? Savings, eh? Never, rarely, often, regularly. I have no savings. Which one? Carol?
No saving.
Okay. Alright. I have enough money to give back to the charities I want to support. Yes, I do, and I give back both time and money. I give back sometimes, but I need reassurance. I'm conscious. I hardly have any money to give as much as I may want to. Giving does not even cross my mind. My finances are a mess right now. Let's pick one.
It doesn't even cross my mind.
It happens. Okay. So now we're at the tail end, so we can click submit, and you see now here it tells you you're in the financial dependence zone. So I can take you through the other zones here so that you just have an idea. So the highest level, so to speak, is what we call financial vitality. Okay, and in this one, the person is assumed to have multiple sources of income, both active and passive. Okay, and the returns from this income fully cover their desired lifestyle. Okay, money is not an issue, and this person is assumed that they can be able to afford a financial coach to be able to review their finances and see what next. Okay, and then you have financial stability, which is the green zone. So here your income fully covers your expenses, including mortgages if you have, or business debt, and you have no lifestyle debts. Lifestyle debts means money that doesn't bring you back anything, money that you took a loan out for chewing, like for a car or something, right? You have extra money to invest, and you make money work for you. You probably have a financial advisor, have a savings plan, your debt is under control, and you're living within your earning capability, right? Then the next one is financial instability, which is, I think, where we have found ourselves. So here we're saying the person in this zone, their income covers their debt, but they struggle to pull through the month. They have no extra money to invest, and they generally feel like they literally work to pay off debt despite living frugally, right? The good news is this is not who you are, but where you are, and you can choose to change this. Okay. Then you have financial dependence, and this is where your expenses and your debt are more than your income. You're in a constant debt cycle, emotionally stressed and feeling out of control. Again, this is not who you are. We can change this. All right, one step at a time. And then finally, there's financial chaos. Here you're having a very tough time financially despite your earnings, if at all. Money seems to slip through your fingers. Perhaps you were never taught about money, or you have trauma, or a health issue that has affected your finances. Okay, so I think we can close now that we have seen all of them. So essentially, after you have come here, now the next item is to go ahead and get started. So you have your zone, and this in theory should be emailed to you. Okay, and the one thing that we want to keep in mind is you can't really know where you're going until you know your current reality. So the reason why we've done this quiz is for us to determine where we are now, and maybe we can come back after a couple of months and go back and retake the quiz and see if our zone has improved based on our financials. So as it stands, Centi is not a free platform, though you do get a free trial period. These are the charges that you normally have. So if you choose to pay monthly, then you'd pay 1,000 baht per month. Then you have discounts depending on the option that you choose to pick, right? But for starters, for this particular user, I'm going to pick the trial period. I see here the trial period is for 13 days. It should actually be for 34 days, because the purpose is to give you an opportunity to get into the platform and to be able to use it end to end for a full month, so that you're able to see all the different features, and you're able to see like your reports at the tail end of the month, even as you're making a buying decision the next month. I'll pause there and take questions before I get into the wallet setup, and we are a bit behind schedule, so we have eaten an extra 10 minutes. So I'll ask for another 10 minutes, and then we should be able to close the call. Okay? Any questions up till there? Okay. If there are none, I'll go to the trial period. So it'll take 13 days. Okay. So far, the first step we want to do is to set up our money goals, and we are using a methodology here called pay yourself first. I think I have realized for myself, anytime I would get paid, the typical way of thinking is, of course, if I'm paying rent, it's not optional. I have to pay rent. So I would take my money and first of all pay rent, assuming all deductions by KRA have been done. Then what is the next immediate thing? I mean, if there are children and there's school fees, of course it's not optional. School fees has to be paid, so that goes next. And it becomes very almost a default way of operating where you find yourself, you have gotten to the end of your money as you're doing the allocation and you've not saved any money. So the methodology that Centi implements is the one called pay yourself first, where what we're saying is first remove the money that you want to save, identify the goals that you're working towards, and after you have removed the money that you're saving for that, then and only then do you reallocate this other money, whatever is left, right? And I'll give you a personal story. One time where I was working we were given terminal dues, okay, and I took the money and put it in one of these money market funds, and then it took me another, I don't know, maybe 6-7 months to get a job. So eventually I withdrew this money that I had put in the emergency fund, in the money market, and chewed all of it. And after I went back to work and stopped being so stressed about money, I was laughing at myself because I realized even if I had not removed that money, so I removed that money, I chewed it, and I still got back to being broke, right? So I was telling myself I should have actually just left that money. Okay, also that when you're in the middle of, like, if you don't have bus fare and you know there's money sitting somewhere, it becomes impossible to say you're not going to withdraw, right? But you're saying now this one where we're talking about recurrent income, it is better to first of all put away money for your goals. All right, so we shall add a goal. I don't know what goal we want to work towards. Someone suggest something. Do we want to save for an emergency fund? Do we want to save for a holiday? I am very open to suggestion for a holiday. Okay, where do you want to go to on holiday? Mombasa, Naivasha, Nakuru, where? Let's pick a place. Mombasa. And it is better to make it as descriptive as possible. Are we going in December? Potentially, Cindy? Yes. Too long. Dark. 2026. All right. How much do we think we need for that holiday? Give it a figure.
Around 50k.
Okay. All right. Then we're assuming we are salaried people, so we can say monthly. All right. And then when do we want to have finished saving for it?
By around October.
Now we're in May, June, July, August, September, October, so that gives us 5 months. Okay, so we just like this. And that gives us 5 months. Sorry. Okay. So if we take the 5.1, which is 22 weeks, then it's telling us essentially we'd need to be saving 10k per month, right? And here there's a feature that is still in development. It's not been completed, but the plan is to make Centi a wallet so that you can actually save the money on the app. But for now, because bado iko jikoni, we won't check that. We'll just uncheck it. And essentially, you'd enter here where you're going to save the money. Are you going to put it in an MMF? Are you going to put it on your M-Shwari lock? I don't know, whatever it is. So here, what do we say? Where are we saving it?
MMF.
Okay. So which MMF? CIC? Can I decide for you?
Yeah.
CIC, MMF. Okay. We say we are going to be putting away. Sorry, something happened here. No, in it. Okay. This is all right. So we say we are saving it there. Then we say add goal. Okay. Is there any other goal that we want to work towards? I think it would be nice to save some for something else. Someone else give me another goal. Anything, like go wild. Don't be shy. Stephen Chalo. Start a business. Thank you. What business do you want to start? Let's give it a name or a type. Restaurant. Sounds like a good business. Okay. Electronics. Very good. Okay. All right. How much should we put aside for this business? Can I put 120k?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I assume that we want to save for this what? Weekly or monthly?
Monthly.
Okay. So how long do you want to save this for?
A year. 12 months.
Okay. All right. So again, it has broken that down, divided that over the 52 weeks or the 12 months. So every month we'll be saving 10k. Okay. Let's put a different figure so that we have a different figure here that we're. Let's see. Yeah, 12k. Okay. So let's add that as a goal. All right. Okay. Then we can go to. So here we're essentially setting up the budget lines. So we come back and we say our inflows. So what are the monies that we have? Salary, Cindy? Salo. How much is our salary? Can you say 123,000? Okay. Let's assume we're paid on the last day of the month. And then the salary comes monthly. Okay. And then let's add another one. Let's assume I keep some chicken. So I have egg sales. Okay. And how much do I make from selling eggs? Let's assume per month I'm making 9,000. And then I normally calculate this at the end of the month again. Okay. Anything else that we can add as an inflow? Someone? Anyone? Okay. So you can see here it computes for you your total income. Okay. We can leave it there. Then we'll go to outflows or expenses. So let's say rent. How much do you want to say we pay by way of rent?
20k.
Okay. What else are we paying for? Food. For sure we have to eat. Okay. How much?
Maybe 6,000 per month.
Okay. Alright. Again, we assume that we do that on the first date of the month. That is when we shop for our food. What else? So you can see here, it's giving you the total of your outflows as you go along. For sure, we have transport. How much should we put in?
6k.
6k. Okay. What else can we put here as an expense?
Water bill, electricity.
So I'll just title them utilities. Thank you. But I expected money. How much do we say?
It's around 7,000.
Especially electricity nowadays. Okay. Then we'll assume for the first of the month. Okay. And then maybe someone has a nanny. This person has a nanny.
Put an average of 8k.
Okay. What else can we put as expenses for this person? School fees. Yeah. Let's assume it's 20k per month. Maybe they have 3 kids in a private school there. So every month they have to put away 20k. Okay. Put a pause in it there. We'll go to debts. Alright. Here I'd like to give a statistic. I attended a conference, I believe 2 years ago, and I was really shocked where they said that on average every Kenyan has, I think by that time, this was 2023, that said on average every Kenyan has 3 loans, 3 mobile or digital loans. And I felt some kind of way because number one, for sure not everyone has digital loans, which means that for the people who have them, they actually have more than 3 every month, you know. So what I had wanted with this particular module is to make it very robust so that you're able to track debts and to be able to repay them quickly. Okay. So let's see. The most common one I think is Fuliza. This person has Fuliza of how much? 9,500 looks like a good figure. Interest rate, let's say it's normally what, 10%, right? And then I think it's for 1 month. Repayment frequency is 1. Installment type, well, actually can be multiple, I think. Loan type, you can say digital. Institute borrowed from, you see here it gives you different options. So let's say M-Pesa, and then you can see it's a new loan, right? And then we are asking, is this loan for daily usage? So if this loan was taken, say, to pay for bus fare on your way to work or for buying milk, so you essentially want the amount you have borrowed here to be added to your inflows and to money that is made available to you for uses at the beginning of the month, then you would come and tick this and say yes. Okay, if it is not for daily usage, then you don't need to tick that, right? So you can just come here and say yes, it is for daily usage, and we add debt, right? And then let's assume also that someone has a debt, say from a particular bank. So let's say personal unsecured loan, 1 million looks like a nice round figure. Okay, let's say it was for 3 years. Interest rate, guy, what can we put here? Let's say something like 17. Okay, and let's assume this was a loan that you took in January of this year. Okay, yes, it's multiple, it's from a bank. We're saying it's from a bank, we say cooperative, right? Status, it's an existing loan. Okay, so essentially what the app does is it takes the interest rate you have put there and it calculates for you how much you're going to pay back at the end of the month. And for this one, this doesn't look correct. It's meant to be a 3-year loan. It shouldn't be computing this much, but okay, let's leave it like that for the moment. Okay, so yeah, essentially it would be able to give you here a total of how much you actually owe, and then you say proceed to wallet tracker. So this is where you'd be doing most of your day-to-day activities, all right? So assuming today is 14th of the month, if you're updating your budget now, then theoretically what you want to do is to come here and say amount received. So you're saying here that amount that you're expecting to receive is 123k. So you come and you say amount received is 123,000. Okay, and you say update. And what essentially you'll see happening is that here the amount available is automatically updated. If then you come and you say yes, this was received, but then I paid for the holiday, it's supposed to be 8,333. Let's say I paid 8,400. Okay, then you'll see automatically the amount here, the figure here will automatically reduce. Okay, if you come back and you say I also saved for my electronics shop 11,000. Okay, you'll see the figure there automatically reducing, and that is how now you come and allocate for each of your expenses. If for some reason you decide not to pay some of these debts, then for this particular month the debts, or if you decide your utilities, where was it? Utilities, if instead of 7,000 it actually came to a bit less or a bit more, you can actually just come and say this month, I don't know, we had traveled, we went to Shags because it was Christmas, and therefore we ended up not spending as much as we had anticipated, right? And what would eventually come and happen is at the end of the month, so assuming this was the budget for May, and you can see here that it's the May budget, right? At the end of the month, after you have come back and you have paid off these debts, you'd come and say you've paid off the amount, and then you'd come and close the month. Okay, so I'd like to stop there because we have really overrun. I don't know if there are any questions. I can take any questions, and then I've put the link to the web app in the chat, but I'll also send it out in some emails after this webinar, potentially tomorrow and Saturday. I don't know if there are any questions, anybody who would like to ask something or to add something. So for people who are in this webinar, if anybody signs up on the paid version of the app, there's going to be 2 bonuses. The first one is that you'll get a free shower gel as part of the bonus, and additionally you'll have a session with me to just walk you through the platform, to do the setup, maybe a half-hour window Thank you, Ibrahim. I have a window to just walk you through and do the setup with you, and to answer any questions you might have regarding how to go about setting up your budget on this app. Okay. So I'll stop there, and so we can wrap up the call if that's okay with everyone, and keep an eye out on your inboxes for the next set of whatevers. And please sign up on the app, test it, and give me feedback if there are any special features that you'd like, or if you find a bug, let us know. All right. Thanks everyone, and have a good evening.